The system failed. Alicia Ortiz, graduate of Hartford Board of Education. She can't read.
Even today, could you read this, or would it take you a long time?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
William A., graduate of Clarksville Montgomery County School District with a 3.4 GPA. He can't even spell his own name.
The parents sued back in 2023 saying their son is dyslexic and graduated with a 3.4 grade point average, but he couldn't read.
Nicholas Hooks, student of Gwinnett County Public Schools, is in the 5th grade, but he reads at only a 3rd grade level.
She says the Gwinnett County School District has not provided the resources or properly trained teachers to help her son learn to read.
And these are just the ones we know about. Each of them have a disability that requires early intervention and special education, according to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. But these students didn't receive the care they needed, allegedly. Instead of being carefully taught, they were pushed through grade after grade, not receiving the careful teaching they desperately needed. Now they are bringing lawsuits to their respective schools, hoping to expose what is truly happening and failing to happen in schools. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca and I make content exposing the problems within education and offering solutions. If that sounds interesting to you, please like and subscribe, and of course, keep watching. One day I was walking through the children's section of a Barnes & Noble when I overheard a conversation between a mother and her young son. She was holding a book in front of him and saying, "What's that word? You know it. It's from your memory list." And that about broke my heart. That child was another victim to the whole language approach to learning reading, an approach that I believe is the reason so many children can't read. And today we're talking about it. For many years, schools have employed the whole language approach to learning reading, which teaches sight words and high-frequency word lists. The idea is that students learning English should commit to memory whole words that appear often in English, such as the, and, to, for, read. You might have stumbled upon some children's books that appeal to this learning style. They will be incredibly repetitive, usually beginning with the same first few words, such as, I saw a dog, I saw a cat, yesterday I played, yesterday I sang. This method of teaching reading is flawed because it makes students focus on the shape of the word as a whole rather than on the sounds the letters make. It's sort of like memorizing an entire symbol instead of its individual parts. So, if some parts are repeated, such as in the words dog and log, students won't know that og sounds the same because they're memorizing the words as a whole. It's honestly tragic. The whole language approach also employs the 3 cueing method. What's the 3 cueing method? Well, this method encourages students to look at 3 specific things when trying to read. The 3 things are semantic, which is meaning, syntactic, which is grammar, and graphonic, the letters and sounds. Although that sounds good, what this kind of boils down to is look at the context, look at the pictures, and make an educated guess as to what the next sentence might be. And this approach was used by 75% of the teachers of early readers polled by Education Week in 2019. Wow. An article by Tiffany Pielter for NWEA states, this approach to reading instruction inadvertently teaches students the habits of poor readers, leading to an over-reliance on guessing at words based on the first letter, picture, or sentence context. The National Reading Panel review of more than 100,000 studies about teaching reading show that children require systematic learning that the whole language approach does not provide. But this approach isn't new. It's actually been in the classroom for over 40 years, and it's still prevalent, as we've seen. There was another study conducted in 2019, talked about by Gian Sager of Ignite Reading. According to those findings, whole language has remained popular. 68% of K2 and special education teachers said they were still using the approach to teach reading. This approach to reading is still used to the detriment of our society. But is there a better way? Going back to my personal story of the mom and son in Barnes & Noble, if that was my mom, she would have been telling me to sound it out. Instead of the whole language approach, I learned to read through phonics. Phonics is a systematic approach to reading that focuses on the relationships between sounds and letters. For instance, B says B and L says L. After learning this method, students are able to sound out or decode even complex words that they haven't even seen before by pairing the sounds together. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rule. English is a complex language that involves tough, thorough thought. Memorization is required to know when letters sound differently depending on their location in a word or their neighboring letters. We're not going to get into the history of phonics in this video. Maybe in the future I'll make a video about that, but suffice to say, it's been traced back all the way back to the New England Primer, which was mentioned in another video. If you're interested in the rise and fall of American education as a whole, you might want to check out my other video after this one that discusses that. But for right now, we're talking about phonics. From the late 1990s until early 2000s, the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development conducted a meta-analysis of 38 studies to determine the 5 most effective components of reading instruction. After their extensive study, the 2 most important components were phonetic awareness, that is, a student's knowledge of individual sounds, and phonics. Speaking about the study, Science News reported children who received systematic phonics instruction scored better on word reading, spelling, and comprehension, especially when phonics lessons started before 1st grade. The research is clear. Students are much better at reading when they learn phonics. So why do schools still teach the whole language approach and the cueing method? Well, for a while, they tried to appease both sides and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they called it balanced literacy. The problem with that is that it wasn't actually balanced. It focused a lot more on the cueing method and on the whole language approach rather than phonics. So it failed, and learning outcomes did not improve. Fortunately, and yes, there is a but, we're excited, there is a turning point, because within the last 5 years, changes have been made to put phonics back into public school curriculum. The Back to Phonics approach, or otherwise known as the science of reading, puts the emphasis back on letter and sound relationships. So even as you're watching this video, as we're speaking, there are changes being made to education, changes that I think will greatly improve overall learning outcomes, because it's focusing now on back to basics and phonics instruction. Let's talk for a minute about some of these students who are actually suing the schools that they went to because they didn't receive the education they deemed they should have, pretty much. They're actually graduating without the ability to read, some of them. The first one is Alicia Ortiz, and her school board was the Hartford Board of Education, and they focus on Common Core standards. In the future, I know I mentioned it before, but I am coming out with a Common Core video just discussing all of it so it makes sense. But first it has to make sense to me. So that's taking a little bit longer to get to you, but it's coming. But it's very problematic, and the system definitely failed Alicia because she graduated and she can't even read. And then we have William A., as his name was listed on the lawsuit. His district is Clarksville Montgomery County School, and they use Benchmark Press as its main curriculum, and it has been criticized for using the 3 cueing method and lacking phonics instruction. So boom, he can't read. I think he can't even spell. Yeah, he can't even spell his own name. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's more of a problem with the parents as well. If your kid can't even spell his own name, like, there's a problem with not only the school system, but with your parenting capabilities, okay? I'm just being honest. But then we have Nicholas Hook, who was of Gwinnett County Public Schools, allegedly, because this is still ongoing, their school purchased defective instructional materials from Heinemann. Now, I cannot wait to talk about Heinemann in a future video, because I did a little research and it goes much deeper than what you would think with this publishing company. Like, we'll have to talk about it. So subscribe so you don't miss that video. But allegedly, Heinemann publishing company curriculum does not include phonics instruction. And Heinemann, by the way, acknowledged the need for more phonics, but did they fix it? Did everything work out beautifully? Did they do what they needed to do for their students to learn? Well, they did update the materials, but they chose to charge districts more money for the updated instructional materials. So basically they're like, yeah, we know we messed up. We know we sold defective materials. Here, we'll fix it. But then you have to spend more money to get the fix for our defective materials. Like, okay, yeah, the system definitely failed him. Incredible. And these are only the ones we know about. There are so many more, I'm sure, unknown, who are going through school and perhaps relying, because you wonder, like, how did these people get all the way to the end of high school? Some of them, you know, how did they get there and they don't know how to read? Like, what is going on? How does that make sense? Like, you have to read to do your homework. You have to read to do everything. A lot of students will just use AI. Yeah, it's become a really big problem. I made another video on AI and its use in the classroom, what teachers are saying about it, but it is eye-opening just how much people are relying on that to do all of the work for them. And that's how they get here. So really, the entire blame cannot be placed on the school system. The school system is supposed to give you the tools that you need in order to do what you need to do, but it really is your choice. If you're a student, it's your choice. You can decide, I'm going to learn this, or I'm going to shut off my ears, my eyes, and not learn anything. You have to decide. But either way, with all these factors, because there are more factors at play than just phonics or one instructional model is being used. There are many more factors. I'm not saying this is the only thing. I'm not saying this is the only reason why students are failing to read, because there are so many more things that I could talk about today. But I'm mainly pointing out that this debate has been going on between whole language method and phonics. And we really need to stop bickering and look at the facts of the case. Look at the studies. Look at the reality. Look at how it is affecting students, and then come to a conclusion that's unified and really decide this is the route. We're not going to keep trying to experiment with what works. We're going to take what works and run with it. And that's important. So in my opinion, based upon the evidence that I've researched today, other things I've heard, people I've talked to, I believe that phonics needs to head the English classroom if we are ever to escape the literary crisis.